What's going on, guys? It is Michael here, and today I'm very keen to nerd out with you and our brand new Fallout 4 build. This is the Crusader, our Space Marine inspired power armor build. When the Crusader sees an obstacle, he doesn't climb over it, he blitzes through it, leaving a trail of dust and blood in his wake. Covered head to toe in plates of power armor, the Crusader shrugs off subtlety, electing to chase down and crush his foes in unrelenting fashion. This walking tank comes fully decked out with a jetpack and a huge irradiated hammer, so the sky's the limit when he crushes his enemies from every angle. The Crusader is anything but conservative in battle. Sometimes he'll swap in his enormous Gatling laser to shower some poor smucks in red death. Considering his immense weight and ample mobility, even gravity can be a deadly force for this Marine, as several tons of solid steel plummet from above. This build may not boast the highest AP by any means, but the maneuverability of his jetpack and the fortitude of his armor means he can meaningfully mow down opponents at his own pace without a care in the world. As always, timestamps to each section of the video can be found just below in the description, but first up we have the backstory. The Crusader was born into a prestigious Catholic family in the wealthy suburbs of Boston. He lived an entitled lifestyle, receiving an expensive education, and he was guided into greatness by his stern father. His father had encouraged him to excel in sports and would take him on annual hunting trips to make a man of his young son. These endeavors were not wasted, as the Crusader was academically endowed and was a physical powerhouse, but such is the bane of many wealthy young children, the Crusader's one weakness was a severe lack of humility. I mean, you could hardly blame him. He was the valedictorian of his graduating class, he was the captain of the football and the baseball team, and he had no trouble using his status to entice a bevy of beautiful women. But the Crusader simply had never learned empathy or modesty. His swollen ego had seemingly disappointed his father, whose stark Catholic beliefs had driven a wedge between him and his self-indulgent son. Despite being the envy of his male counterparts, the Crusader's longing for his father's approval caused him to be bitter. His pursuits lost their savor and he sought a change in lifestyle. This led him to the military. In the military, he could apply his many talents in the service of his God and his country. The Crusader served in the United States Marine Corps during one of the numerous offensive campaigns in China. He rose through the ranks and soon found himself leading a squadron tasked with protecting the annexed territories of China, and eventually playing a prominent part in the counter-invasion of the Chinese mainland. He developed a strong rapport with his men and he thrived in a role of responsibility, leading the charge from within his T-51B power armor. The Crusader's educated background made him a formidable tactician during the Yangtze campaign. His lack of empathy, previously criticized by his father, meant he faced no moral dilemmas annihilating communist soldiers, as he believed they were beneath him. During his campaign, he learned of the existence of the pre-war internment camps like Little Yangtze, in which Chinese spies were held for experimentation, but the Crusader dismissed it as a necessary evil, eliminating the communist abominations. His final involvement in the Yangtze campaign was during the conquering of Shanghai. An ambush left his squadron almost entirely wiped out, and the Crusader had narrowly escaped the predicament with a broken arm sustained while tackling an assailant off the roof of a two-story building. He returned home to Boston soon after to recover from his injuries. During his award ceremony, he met the younger sister of one of his deceased squad members. He consoled her and preached of his bravery and sacrifice on the battlefield, and the two developed a close relationship. They soon fell in love and settled down to raise a family. He'd been preparing for an event at the Veterans Hall in Concord when the local newsreader heralded the beginning of an all-out nuclear war, forcing the Crusader and his family to rush to Vault 111. When the Crusader awakes from stasis and emerges into the Commonwealth, he'll be reminded of his time serving with the Marine Corps in China. This place is no longer the home he knew, and it is a dangerous alien environment. His military instincts and training will kick in, and his primary focus early on will be survival. As he grows accustomed to the wasteland, he will begin to seek purpose again, aiming to put his physical and mental acuity to use. When he meets the Brotherhood, he will agree with their ideologies, more than any of the other factions. He agrees that valuable technology should be kept out of the hands of the unworthy, and is a staunch supporter of cleansing the wasteland of non-human monstrosities. The Crusader will fit the bill as an ideal Brotherhood recruit, and will feel a similar sense of influence which he once possessed in his school and military years. The Crusader perceives himself as an infallible asset to whomever he aligns with. However, he has this constant feeling in the back of his head that something's still missing. He has what he wants in many ways, but he doesn't believe he's found the meaningfulness in life that he thinks might exist. he'll constantly wonder if his potential is actually being fully realized. Upon heading to Far Harbor and discovering the children of Adam on the island, he is enthralled. He learns of their beliefs and ideologies and will take great pleasure in how they treat him. He will definitely call on the Brotherhood to eliminate the synths in Arcadia, and in his own warped way, the Crusader actually thinks that the ambitions of the Brotherhood and the children of Adam go together quite well. They both want the synths erased and generally want to pure the Commonwealth of Abominations. To the children of Adam, feral ghouls are those who are touched by Adam's glow but refuse to spread his word. They are heretics and must be terminated. The Brotherhood would agree with such a goal. After prolonged exposure to the children of Adam's influence, the Crusader is indoctrinated. He is an intelligent man, but having such a high opinion of himself clouds his self-awareness, and the romantic notion that he may be linked closely to Adam is one that is far too tantalizing. He fosters the belief that the reason his father had never accepted him was because he was actually the son of Adam himself, and his father's contrasting Catholic perspective had driven a wedge between them. This explanation not only fulfills his longing for a greater purpose and more meaning, but also justifies to him that it was in fact his father who was flawed and not him. The convenience of this realization will be enough to delude the Crusader into total devotion and continual belief in Adam. He understands that the Brotherhood may not approve of him spreading the word of Adam, but he believes this is simply because they need time to adjust from their overall religious agnosticism. That said, he won't go around preaching Adam to them, of course. In regards to the Nuka World DLC, the Crusader will see the Raider inhabitants as nothing but problematic. He will take it as his personal mission to rid the park of the degenerates. The Crusader is certainly not lacking in pre-war experience, and at the beginning of the Fallout journey he will immediately be a force to be reckoned with. Leaving the vault, his special stats will be 10 strength, 1 perception, 4 endurance, 1 charisma, 10 intelligence, 1 agility, and 1 luck. The special book will be spent on luck in order to undertake the Scrounger perk as early as possible. The Crusader is an accomplished sportman and a battle-hardened warrior. His might in the face of adversity is unquestionable. For this reason, 10 points of strength are a staple of his playstyle, delivering justice with the face of his hammer or the smoking barrel of his Gatling gun. His other major stat is his intelligence. He may not have been graced with copious amounts of common sense, but academic comprehension and attention to detail more than make up for these shortcomings. The Crusader rarely had to call upon impulsiveness in battle because his combat strategies rarely faltered from their intended outcomes. Therefore, the Crusader's intelligence clocks in at 10. Lastly, we have endurance. This stat will begin at a humble 4, but soon will be bolstered by perk points as he weathers the wasteland. Underneath the power armor, the Crusader is far from indestructible, but his courage in the midst of hardship is second to none. He suffered an excruciating injury in the Yangtze campaign, bringing down a Red during an ambush, but he wouldn't hesitate to do it again, if the circumstance demanded it. He can quite clearly take a knock, and the man encased in the armor is no coward. As he acclimatizes to his surroundings and discovers a new purpose in life, courtesy of the children of Adam, his strength and intelligence are soon paralleled by his durability. Now let's delve into the Crusader's essential perks. We know that this Marine combines immense power with advanced technology to devastate his foes, but with these perks you'll have all the tools you could possibly need to command power and conquer every inch of the Commonwealth. Firstly, from the strength stat line comes big leagues. The Crusader wields a shatteringly powerful atomic hammer, and thanks to the Big Leagues perk, this high school baseball star is fully prepared to come in swinging, causing double damage with a 20% chance to cripple, and having the possibility of executing a Grand Slam finishing move. Maybe he's imagining things, but every time the Crusader decapitates a foe in this fashion, he hears the reminiscent sound of his high school colleagues cheering him on. Also from the strength stat line we have armorer, so we can customize all our armor, and the Crusader has relied on power armor throughout his military service, and it's standard practice that every soldier knows how to maintain his equipment, so it makes sense. With the science perk and this perk completed, you can do anything you want with your power armor, except of course change the arm pieces. Next up is heavy gunner. Fighting a war in enemy territory can be unpredictable, and the Crusader knows as well as the next guy that sometimes you don't want to bring a knife to a gunfight. Investing in all 5 ranks of this means the Gatling laser he cuts around is just as viable as his melee alternative. With this perk you'll do double damage and have a chance to stagger your opponents, and hipfire accuracy will be significantly increased. boost. This battler is not prone to fleeing from difficult situations, and his self-assurance is enough to petrify any enemy with half a brain. Maxing the Rooted perk means he will gain plus 50 damage resistance and a 50% increase in melee damage output while standing still. Additionally, while still, he has a chance to disarm enemies wielding melee weapons who attack him. The Crusader tackles his problems head-on, both figuratively and literally, and more commies than he can count have been taken for unsolicited rides on the Pain Train. With the Pain Train perk fully optimized, you can sprint into enemies, charging them, sending them flying in the air in your power armor, causing massive damage and knocking them from their feet. Making an impressive entrance with an impact landing is also encouraged, as landing in the vicinity of enemies will inflict even more area of effect damage. Next we have Endurance. Admittedly, this guy had little to endure as a youth. He was born into good fortune and financial security, but the path the Crusader carved out for himself tested his resilience, and a spiritual encounter with a certain atomic deity transmogrified him into a pious warrior. From this stat line, you'll want to drop 5 points into base endurance, bringing it up to 9 before the bobblehead. Once this is done, you'll be able to take advantage of the solar-powered perk. With this maxed out, the Crusader will gain plus 2 to strength and endurance between 6 AM and 6 PM, soaking up those nutritious UV rays, slowly healing radiation damage and regenerating lost health. From Intelligence, we're putting 2 points into Medic, so Stimpaks restore 60% of health, and right away remove 60% of radiation. Also, we have Gun Nut and Science, and just like with Armor, Weapon, Maintenance, and Enhancement is a must-have skill for every soldier, so we're having 2 ranks of Gun Nut, but 4 ranks of Science, so we'll have access to all energy weapon mods, but you need Gun Nut too to make your Gatling laser as good as possible. Computer terminals are also a basic utility of every wealthy household, and the Crusader has sufficient knowledge of such tech to bypass any amount of encryption. He'll have 3 ranks of this so he can break into any terminal present in the Commonwealth. You'll also have Scrapper. This way you can salvage much rarer crafting components from scrapped weapons and armor, and thanks to the Far Harbor DLC, rare components will come in greater quantities. Lastly, from Intelligence, but very importantly, we have Nuclear Physicist. The Crusader knows power armor like the back of his hand, and fusion core technology has saved his ass more times than he can count. This born-again dogmatist will embrace radioactive technology on the battlefield. Taking all 3 ranks of this perk means fusion cores will last twice as long, and in desperate times, they can be ejected from armor like catastrophic grenades. Also, the Crusader's radiation-based primary weapon will strike with much more damage. If that wasn't enough, a cool side effect of the longer-lasting fusion cores is that it will benefit our choice of the Gatling laser as a weapon, not just our power armor. As we mentioned previously, the special book goes into luck so we can get the Scrounger perk early on. This perk increases the prevalence of ammo in containers and also sometimes refunds ammo when firing the last round of a clip. As this build depends so heavily on fusion cores, this perk is incredibly valuable. Not including gear, but including all bobbleheads, the Crusader's endgame special stats will be 11 strength, 2 perception, 10 endurance, 2 charisma, 11 intelligence, 2 agility, and 2 luck. Leaving the vault, we know the Crusader will be focused on survival, doing whatever he needs to do for self-preservation. As a result, finding power armor is vital for his chances. During the early game, you'll want to get your hands on the best suit of power armor you can find and start hoarding those fusion cores. Whatever offers the most protection will do in terms of regular apparel. Once you've progressed through the game, the endgame apparel will be a fully upgraded set of T60 power armor, complete with the Sentinel paint for the +1 strength bonus. As opposed to wearing the standard T60 helmet, however, wearing the Inquisitor's cowl offers an intelligence boost which scales with radiation damage. So that not only looks badass, but also fits the Crusader's playstyle to a T. The Crusader is smart enough to see the drawbacks of such heavy armor and will opt to mod his set with a jetpack for improved mobility. Though due to a lack of AP, the playstyle won't be entirely focused on flight. He'll use much shorter jetpack bursts to only fly as high as he needs to. Applying explosive vents or optimized servos to the leg pieces will greatly improve effectiveness. As a guy who tends to see himself as being above all those around him, a jetpack seems rather fitting. The Brotherhood of Steel uniform serves as suitable under armor clothing, but feel free to change this up as you play. As for weapons, much like armor, early game is all about finding whatever keeps you alive. Until you can reach the real damage dealers, a super sledge and a minigun will suffice. Towards end game, switch the minigun for a Gatling laser and exchange the super sledge for the unique melee weapon Adam's Judgment. This legendary weapon dishes out a monstrous amount of physical and radiation damage and works in stride with big leagues and nuclear physicists to make it one of the most powerful damage dealers in the entire game. The Crusader has plenty of experience working alongside others, but in no way depends on them. It goes without saying that he would not associate himself with the likes of non-humans like Nick Valentine, Strong, and Hancock, but companions like Paladin Dance and other skilled fighters may prove competent enough to aid him. The Crusader won't spare a thought for settlements as he has little interest in such menial tasks. He will be relatively dismissive of Preston and the Minutemen as soon as he dons the power armor. His base of operations will either be the Pridwen or the Nucleus. And there you have it, folks. That concludes this week's Fallout 4 build, the Crusader. If you like what you saw, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up, and after you hit that subscribe button, share it with your buds. Timestamps and social media links can be found just below in the description, so don't forget to head on down there. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm Michael, and I'll nerd out with you again very soon.